Someone once accused me of working with whitebark pine because I just want to work in pretty places. I think there's just so many aspects of the work. I get to meet a lot of amazing people. It does keep me in the mountains for a lot of the summer, which is a welcome thing. It's a pretty incredible position. My name is Eve Bernhard. I'm a restoration ecologist in a dual role with American Forests and the National Park Service. And I'm working on trying to conserve and restore whitebark pine. Whitebark pine serves a lot of roles in the ecosystem for just about every type of living thing that is near it. It plays a role in watershed health downstream. It helps retain snowpack, which helps to filter and clean drinking water. It has a wider canopy than a lot of the other tree species that live in the ecosystem, and so it creates these really amazing microclimates for plants underneath it. The seeds are highly nutritious and calorie dense. They're a very important food source for many different species of birds and animals, and historically they're an important food source for humans as well. A lot of people see them as an intrinsic part of being in high mountain environments. I'm out here climbing whitebark pine to collect cones for restoration. I was out here in July to climb this tree and cage the cones with hardware cloth cages to keep the animals from eating all the seeds, because everybody wants to eat them because they're nutritious and delicious. We come back pretty much as late in the season as possible. We want the seeds to be as mature as possible. They won't continue to mature off the tree. We also don't want to risk not being able to climb the trees because of weather, because it could start snowing here any day. I mean, it's gorgeous right now, but it's the mountains, so it could totally snow.
Restoring whitebark pine is going to take all people at the table and all tools in our restoration toolkit. One tool in that toolkit is a technique called direct seeding. So what we do is, instead of growing up these seedlings in a nursery and then planting the seedlings across the landscape, we'll actually take the seeds and we'll plant the seeds and let the seeds grow. This is a really important technique because it not only has the potential to reduce costs, but it also has the potential to reduce the time that is required in order to do whitebark pine restoration.
A holistic approach to whitebark pine restoration is important because it's a whole ecosystem, and so it takes a whole ecosystem of humans as well to work on trying to save the species. There's the National Park Service, there are nonprofits, there's the Forest Service, there are volunteers, tribal partners, there's graduate students, there's researchers, all different people contributing to this work.
American Forest has been really lucky to support the National Park Service in particular through a 5-year agreement that we have with the Park Service to help support conservation and restoration planning as well as activities on the ground. That has translated into multiple years of cone collection across the parks. Whitebark pine is also an iconic tree species in many of our Western recreation meccas. Whether we're talking National Park Service units, whether we're talking U.S. Forest Service and National Forest System lands, if you're thinking about recreating in the western United States at high elevation, you're probably going to pass some whitebark pine, whether you're aware of it or not. American Forest has been really lucky to be supported by Lifetime Foundation, and I think we wouldn't be able to do what we do for whitebark pine without the support.
Lifetime Foundation is the philanthropic arm of Lifetime, advancing healthy people on a healthy planet. I really value the holistic approach that American Forest takes by taking multiple partners and looking at multiple avenues to solve a particular problem that isn't just going to change the problem today, but really for the future. I think there's so much that can be said about enhancing your own health just by getting outside. Our community, our members, our athletes that participate in all of our athletic events have a particular love for nature and for the amazing spaces that we have outside.
Well, these kinds of landscapes where whitebark pine live, these are the very places that athletes like myself go to be challenged and to experience something greater than ourselves. When you are hiking or running and you're able to look up and look around you and realize that each and every species, including the whitebark pine, is part of this interconnected ecosystem that all depends upon each other. And then you realize that you showing up into that ecosystem gives you an opportunity to interact with it, to appreciate it.
I can imagine the many different consequences to this system failing. For us to do the right thing now, to invest in these very important projects so that the entire ecosystem that the whitebark pine is part of, and make sure that it doesn't cease to exist, it has to happen. It has to happen now.
Nobody in this game for whitebark pine restoration and conservation is doing it because they expect to see or bear the fruits of the restoration efforts. They're doing this because they treasure the ecosystem, they treasure the forest, they treasure the next generation of people who are going to be able to have these experiences. And I don't think you can put a price tag or beat that. We are doing this for the future, and it makes me really proud of my colleagues. It makes me really proud of the organization that I work for and the organizations that support us. I'm just really grateful.
One of the reasons that I personally care so much about this work is that I can't have children. It's made me think a lot about legacy, because I think a lot of people see their children as their legacy, but that's not something that I'm able to do. And so I think, in a way, this work with whitebark pine has really come to feel like something that could be my legacy. Whitebark pine is something that's bigger than myself, that I feel like I can still make a difference about. Kind of like when you look at the night sky and you feel really overwhelmed by how tiny you are. I look at the world of whitebark pine and it's like this kind of vast ecosystem that I feel that sense of awe, but I also feel like it's something that I can make a difference in. The more people know the story of the tree and continue to tell that story and support the work in whatever way they're able, the more likely we are to be successful in this effort. I think my next experiment is going to be looking at which words of affirmation that you say during planting will lead to the highest survival. But I haven't figured out yet which song. I feel like one has to be a song. But then the control would have to be like yelling at them, just insulting them. Call yourself a seed?